I love that.
Well, good afternoon, and you may be hearing it later in the day by the time this goes live. But this is Lauren Calloway with Untethered with Lo, and a little bit about me. I am a business and wellness coach, and I do coaching, events, marketing, web development, social media management, graphic design, PR. But I'm also a wellness teacher, and so I teach yoga and do sound healings, and just really provide this whole mind, body, spirit alignment opportunity, and so you can expand in your business. And one of the ways that I love supporting my community is by creating opportunities for others to shine and to get their message out there. And so, again, leaning with the next segment that we're doing, I've got Lisa on with me today. And Lisa, would you like to tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. So first of all, super excited to be here, Lauren, and actually like meet you for real. We've only chit-chatted a little bit via social media, right, over the last couple of days. So I always love meeting new people kind of with that really positive energy. So thank you for having me. I love that.
Thank you.
I am, so a little about me. I am a mom of three adult boys, married to my high school sweetheart. I know that's really cliche, but we made it work. 35 years we'll be celebrating this August, right? So, wow, that makes me feel old. Um,
That's what
but
I don't know about everybody else, but that's something I dream of, that long lasting love. So no, like love hearing that. Thank you.
yeah, it is pretty it's pretty cool to be married to your best friend and like grow up alongside of them. So that's been a really cool journey. I've wore a lot of hats through my time, my 55 years here on this earth, and so many of them never fit. They were hats other people thought I needed to wear. And through the years, I've just figured out, no, those weren't my hats. That wasn't fun. They were too tight. They were too big. They were all the things. And, you know, um, it's been quite the journey. I've really battled through some things that I think so many, especially women, battle through, being told that, maybe you're not enough, or maybe you feel like you're not enough. And I've just really came out on the other side of that through a lot of um, grit, a lot of determination, a lot of drive, a lot of stubbornness, a lot of counseling. I've come out on the other side and I've really succeeded. And I just love to share with people the journey of, you aren't who your circumstances told you should be, but your circumstances definitely help develop who you can be. And just because you were born into single family, low income, doesn't mean you can't jump out on the other side and have your own business and succeed and, make a 6, 7 figure income, and impact others along the way. So that's kind of my elevator pitch, I guess.
I love that. And it's so important because we've talked about this already, that's kind of the same. We parallel in that respect where I'm sure like you, we didn't come from a house with money.
No,
Um
no.
I personally didn't come from parents who were super present and engaged in my life. And then because of that, that fluctuates, that creates a lot of opportunity for mishaps and misfortunes to come through. But as we grow up, you and I probably know that those mishaps and misfortunes were what brought us exactly to where we are. But
100%.
tell me about your childhood. Tell me about the mishaps, because
Sure.
people will say often, like, I don't want to hear that somebody went through the same thing as me, but knowing that you're not alone should really light you up. And
It,
even though you and I will say the same thing, I want to hear, I want to know you, and I want to
yeah,
know how you've grown through what you've grown through. So please just tell us about your childhood and those.
sure. It's so I was brought up a single mom. I don't ever remember my parents married. I don't even know. I think maybe they got divorced when I was 3 or 4. Um, And my mom she's now passed. She passed in 2017, but she was probably looking back, one of the hardest working women I've ever met. But we grew up in low income housing. I thought everybody ate hard-boiled eggs, excuse me, hard-boiled eggs for dinner, right? I didn't know that not everybody just ate buttered noodles for dinner. You're shaking your head, and I was as a young adult, I was so embarrassed of that. But I've really come full circle and embraced that. But so brought up, a single mom, she was doing everything she possibly could to make sure I had the best life I could have. And our house was filled with love and silly adventures. But I was the typical, latchkey kid, right? I carried my key to and from school every day. I came home every day all by myself. My mom worked most often second shift. So that was hard. But I also didn't know it was hard, if that makes sense. It was just what we did, right? So it was, probably not until junior high when I really started realizing that we were poor. And it was literally just monetarily poor, right? I'll never forget, we met these kids at like a forensics contest and in 6th grade, and we invited them over for my birthday. And we lived in this big apartment complex. And I'll never forget, we had orange shag carpet, right? The beautiful shag carpet. And we had these boys and girls over. And after they left, my mom said to me, "Do you know who that was?" And I'm like, "I have no idea, Mom." They were, and I named off the names, and she goes, "Well, that boy, his parents own the biggest department store in our town. And that boy, his parents own the biggest construction company in our town." And as she was telling me that, I just felt myself, right, just get little. I was so ashamed. I'm like, how could these people from these big mansions, what do they think of me now? What do they think of me coming to this, apartment complex with the orange shag carpet, right? And we drove a beat up old station wagon. And I just remember that was the day, it was like my 13th birthday, that I realized we were poor. And it took this really fun birthday party, and it was pivotal in everything that was going on. Which then led to, people in junior high are just nasty, right? I don't know. I don't know about anybody else. My junior high and high school were not fun. I didn't enjoy them. I got bullied a lot. I got locked in lockers. At that time, my mom moved in with her best friend, who was also a single mom. And so that was in the late 70s. And everybody thought my mom was gay, and she wasn't. And that wasn't at all acceptable then. So it was just one more, I don't know, hitch in my belt that was a mark against me. And it just kept snowballing. And I mean, people were just mean. Girls, well, we all know teenage girls just are mean anyway. But it just kept snowballing, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I just thought, this is all I'm going to be. I'm going to be lower middle class. I'm going to just do this. I didn't go to college. At that point, I didn't even know it was an opportunity for me. I waitressed for a lot of years. I mean, there's a lot of good that happened as well, right? I married my high school sweetheart. But we also had people at that point telling us, "You'll never make it."
Mm.
You're marrying your high school sweetheart. Who does that? That you haven't dated anybody else, all the things. So we had all these things against us. And I never had what I called, what I thought was a respectable job, right? I was a waitress for many years, and I'd have my classmates that I went to high school with come into the restaurant and kind of look down their nose at me, and just made me always feel less than. And for anybody who has felt that less than, that is the worst feeling in the world. In fact, I'm talking about it now and my heart is racing. I can just go back right to those days. But the thing that I never stopped doing, I never stopped wanting to prove I could do better, or that I could have more. And even though I always had that drive, I never knew what that truly looked like or how I was going to get there. And I mean, we had kids when we were young. We had kids when we were 23 and 25. So there was no money. There was just surviving, right? But I ended up getting an amazing job just through who I knew.
Mm.
And I always thought that was a terrible way to get anywhere. I always thought you needed to get there by what you did and what you accomplished and the schooling that you had. And I always thought getting a step up because of who you knew was not doing your due diligence or just being lucky, or I don't know, until I finally figured it out. And oh, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Keep.
And once I figured out that I may have came from nothing, but what I did have is I knew how to build relationships. And that was like my gift. It was my light bulb. It was what drove me. And it is what has propelled me into the person I am today. Because I truly do like really, really care about people. And I try and make them feel as important as they should feel, right? Because I know what it's like not to feel that way. So, fast forward, we raised 3 boys. It wasn't easy. There was a lot of financial difficulties in there. Not knowing where we were going to pay the mortgage, or how we were going to pay the light bill, the robbing from Peter to pay Paul. And I think we all go through that. The more I learn about people, I always thought I was the exception to the rule. And then next thing we knew, our kids were getting ready to go to college, and we were like, how are we going to pay for that? What does that look like? And we were scared. I was a travel agent. How am I going to afford that, right? My husband did inside sales. How are we going to do that? But we knew in our heart of hearts, our kids needed to have every advantage they could possibly have. So we were like, we're going to figure it out somehow. And they all picked private schools to go to, which my husband and I were like, okay, that's not a $10,000, that's not a $12,000 a year education. That's a $40,000 a year education. How are we going to get there? And we made it work. Our kids knew a couple of things. They knew you need to work hard. You need to get your grades where they needed to be. And you needed to take this seriously. And mom and dad are here to support you no matter what. And we're blessed. They're brilliant. And my husband and I look at each other half the time and we're like, I don't know how that happened, because neither one of us went to college. And we've always kind of, wished we could have, or wished we would have. And the three kids, they all graduated from college, put themselves through. We did, we all paid for it together, all of those things. And it wasn't until they graduated from college and my husband and I moved from Wisconsin, tiny, tiny town in Wisconsin, to North Carolina as empty nesters. And neither one of us knew like who we were. Did we even like each other? Did I even, what career did I want to do? Was I going to be this lost little teeny tiny fish in this huge North Carolina, right? Charlotte. And I remember talking with recruiters. We moved here for a job of mine, and I was looking for a new job, however, and talking to recruiters, telling them what I needed to make, what my requirements were, what my education was. And they just told me flat out, Lisa, you're not going to get a job that pays what you need it to pay. You don't have a college degree. I can't even get you an interview. And I remember being so defeated, going at 50 years old, I don't have a college degree. But what does that even matter? If I would have had an English degree or a history degree or a degree in basket weaving, whatever, graduating at 24, what would that matter now as a 50-year-old? And I could get an interview initially. I could be seen initially, but then when the road or the rubber hit the road and they found out I didn't have a degree, they were like, I'm out. I'm out. They didn't even want to talk to me anymore. Talk about frustrating. Talk about always trying to change. I always found I was trying to change myself to fit in. And fitting in is scary. Fitting in is leaving yourself at home and showing up as an imposter. So I wasn't ever happy, and I found myself really, I don't know, sad, depressed, lonely, anxious. And then I didn't. And then I found a great job. They hired me. They told me I was worth all the things, started to give me a little bit of the confidence I needed. And then I found on a whim a business that I could jump into on my own, which was, I got into it because my husband was looking for better health options. And he's the guy who does all the research. I do not. I'm just like, okay, I live by the 80-20 rule. I'm going to be honest, because I'll eat my salad, but I want my glass of bourbon or I want my glass of wine. And he had wanted to take some CBD, and he didn't know like how to find it, how to find a good one, all the things. And so he asked me, because I'm a really good private eye, right? I mean, because I raised 3 boys, let's be real, I'm really good at digging up stuff, right? And so I found a company, and there was something that just told me, Lisa, you should do that. You should jump in and be in the business. And if it turns out to be something great, if it doesn't turn out to be something great, but in the meantime, maybe it'll help Mark feel better. And what I found was, I found me. And yes, my business has been extremely successful. And yes, I've impacted a lot of people's lives, and I've helped them feel better, and I've helped them find financial stability. But the thing that I found for me is I found a community that allowed me to be me. They didn't care if I had a college degree. And I joke and I say, I've got 13 letters behind my name. So nobody cared that they weren't MD or a PA. I've got 13 letters. That's as long as my last name. So hooray for me. So let's just embrace that. But I found this community of men and women that are all about lifting you up, supporting you. If you don't know how to do your job, it's okay, because they're going to help you. And maybe they don't know how to do it either. And it has been through that where I've seen the biggest changes in me. My family has seen them. I've lost a lot. I've lost a lot of quote unquote friends, because they don't like the new me. And that was hard. I've had people really, really close to me say, I don't like this new Lisa. I love you, but I don't like you. And those were things that were like really, really deep down hurtful and really kind of put me back into that less than feeling, but through a lot of counseling and talking with others, I have found I'm now able to release that and go, you know what, that was their problem. That's not mine. I need to shine my light. And if I can shine my light and help others along the way, then my cup is full. So that's kind of my spiel, my journey, and now I'm all about making sure, especially women coming through with young children or moving into empty nester, where we have put all of our energy into helping our family and putting ourselves last, and sometimes later than last, and to help them understand there is more. You are more. You are more than just a mom. You are more than just a wife. You are more than that young girl who got bullied and locked in a locker when you were 16. You are this beautiful light. You have this vibration to give to others. You have so much to offer. You are so beautiful. Even if you think you are 10, 15, 30 pounds overweight, you are just beautiful and your soul shines. And if I can help one more woman feel that way, then my life journey is good.
I love that. Well, number one, thank you for sharing your story.
Oh, you're welcome.
Because when we share, we go back to that. We go back to those moments, those experiences, and even if we process them, we still feel them,
Yes.
and no matter how much we work through them, it probably still will always sting a little bit, but it doesn't have to fully control you. And that's the whole point of, experiencing it and letting go. And your story, just like my own personal story, is a lot like yours. But some key things like coming back to the beginning, right? As a child, right? You're put in this circumstance that you don't sign up for when we get here, right?
Right? We can't choose our family.
All right. And, spiritual people tell you otherwise, but at the end of the day, we don't remember if we do or not. So,
True.
but at the end of the day, like, you come here and you have to experience these pre-programmed structures of society, and their societal pressures is ultimately what you would call them.
Yep.
And as a kid, you're just, like you were saying, you're just having a good time. You're just exploring your life. You're just appreciating the friendships you have. And then our parents do what they do best, which is come in and be a buzzkill sometimes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and then their program comes into us where it's okay. I'm not just a kid living my life. It's, I'm a poor child.
Yep.
Hanging out with rich people, and maybe I should feel grateful, or maybe I should feel less than. But first and foremost, like as parent, I'm a mom too. My son's 14, and and my son and I have gone through being overly tight and broke, but I always provided, and I always try to make him know, like, it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
doesn't matter. And like you said, to make the most of things. But, we as parents and we, got to stop putting these pressures on our children. If we're broke, we just need to say we're broke, but we're still living our life. We don't need to go, you're broke, you need to feel broke.
Right.
Like, kids don't understand that concept. So we don't need to, as parents, put that pressure on them. Like, yeah, yeah, and I'm a little tight this week, but you can still go hang out with your friends, enjoy your life. And even if he himself thinks that, that's on him at that point. But I'm
Right.
not saying that you need to not be happy. And so, big thing is, starting at a young age, we get these programs put in place and these ideas put in place, and it doesn't have to be that. I know recently I've been trying to tell people, like, I don't care if you're a millionaire. You're not better than me. It doesn't, like, I probably live more life than you, and that doesn't make me better than you, but it makes me more experienced in all these different things. And therefore, we're really quite balanced. Even if you have all the money in the world, doesn't make you better than someone. Just because you go to college doesn't make you smarter than somebody. We as a society have grown to put these beliefs in into everything, and they're not accurate, and they're not healthy, and they're not safe. And I really am a big advocate for breaking those kind of things down, because I too went to college, was studying aerospace engineering, got into my second year between having like a major and a minor. And, I had my son and I had nobody there to help. And my parents didn't want to help. Like, nobody cared, they're like, come take your stuff. I'm working, going to school, trying to be a parent. And something had to go. Well, school
Yep.
went, and I did great things in college. I worked with NASA. I worked for Ron Paul campaign. Like, I have all these
Oh,
accolades,
cool.
all these amazing things. And I know my recent ex, when we talked about the fact that I've been to school twice. I was in school before I moved to Charlotte, but I was in my first semester and then got asked to move to Charlotte to do the work that I do because I'd already owned my business. And so I left because I saw this as an opportunity, a better one for me at the time. And so I was dating a guy recently where he, one day we were at lunch, and obviously we are no longer together after these conversations, but, he's like, well, I went to college, so didn't make mistakes. And I said, you're never going to be as good as the person who actually make mistakes, because now it's deeply embedded in me that this is a mistake, but it's not a mistake. It's an opportunity to learn and grow. And then these are the options that you have from that mistake. And, he just had this hoity-toity feel to him, to where he thought he was just better than me because he went to college. But mind you, I made more money than him.
Right.
I
Right.
never did I rub it in. Never did I rub it in. I'm not that kind of person. But at the time, I'm thinking, but I make more money than you. And I live a life of freedom where I can travel and do whatever I want because of the business I created, where you have to go in the office 5 days a week. I
Right.
mean, who's better? And not saying I'm better, but who has the ability to live a more fulfilling life right now? Me, the one that
Right.
you're putting down because I didn't go to finish college. And he's like, you shouldn't even talk about the fact that you went to college, and I'm like, why not? I did. I ran clubs in college. I worked for great programs in college. I did a lot of amazing things in college. So why would I not talk about it? And so, like, it goes the opposite, right? Where people who think they're better than you, they try to discredit you sometimes because, one, and we talked about this, making the impossible seem possible.
That's exactly right. And just because you didn't go to college, right, doesn't mean you still can't do amazing things
Absolutely.
in the world. It's not for everybody. And like you said, and here you are having the conversation with him, going, not rubbing it in, but thinking to yourself, yeah, I didn't go to college, but I am making a really nice income and I'm able to be present with my son. And I think if we all can wrap our head around having that time freedom, is for me much more impactful than a simple paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, kind of going into it, like, I think we had talked about, like, the struggles, right? When you're a single parent or your parents, period. Having kids an added expense, but being young and trying to get your lives together and figure out who you are is just as much as taxing financially and emotionally and all those things. And so, even now, like I was just saying to a friend, I said, I was working with this company out here, and they kind of honestly blew their money and kind of wasted a lot of time. And so the holding company I moved out here for, we're not together anymore. And I moved out here for this. And I get a call like, hey, we gotta have a talk because like it's not working out for us because we have to close down half of our companies because we're not doing well. And and so I go to lose half of my salary, half covered by them, the other half covered by clients that I have outside them.
Ouch.
And sitting here today, even before we get on, I'm sitting here thinking, man, I got bills I got to pay. I've got, things I've already kind of invested in. I mean, there's money out there, but there's money I can't touch because it's just not time. It's just not, I'm not allowed to. And so I'm over here, willing to take the stress and worry of knowing that what I'm doing right now, no matter how uncomfortable, is creating space for the comfortability and the lifestyle I want to keep living. And that at the end of the day, like I'd rather be stressed than a little struggled from time to time to know that I'm going to be happy being free from the confinements of the 9 to 5 and the confinements of having to be somewhere every day. And so, sometimes I was telling Dawn, someone I just did the podcast was, I said, sometimes I want to be under pressure. Sometimes that is where I work best.
Oh yeah. Have a little bit of a fire under your rear end.
Yeah. My gem sign as an Aries, as an April baby, is a diamond. And people will look at my life and they're always like, you be doing the most, I'm in the same situation. And I'm like, because I am made and built for pressure. I am made and built to hold a lot. And I'm grateful for the space and the shoulders that I carry, like have built on this body, the strength that's deep within my soul to be one of those people who advocate for doing whatever you need to do, whatever you feel called to really bring you into a space that feels in alignment. I'm not here to be unhappy anymore.
No, because life is too short, right? And there's too many unhappy people out there that I truly think they're happy being unhappy, or that's the only thing they know. And I don't have time for that. I don't have time to be miserable. And I'm with you. It's funny. I think I heard you say an Aries sign, right? Is that what you said, Aries? So I'm an Aries as well. So clearly we are meant to have this conversation. And because I'm laughing when you say, you're built to be under pressure. My one son had said to me one time at a very late night, early morning conversation, Mom, you are just a grinder. Yeah. And I kind of took offense to that. And I'm like, Cody, I don't know if that's something nice to say to your mom. And he's like, no, Mom, what I really mean by that is you just know how to get stuff done. You just figure it out and you just get it done and you just move on to the next thing. And if you stumbled along the way, it's okay. You wipe your knees off and you go, well, that didn't work very well. And then you try plan B. And so I kind of wear that, like you said, that pressure, right? I work best under pressure. I kind of wear that grinder name as kind of a badge, because that's how I've gotten where I needed to get. You and I similarly could have sat and wallowed in how things weren't going well. But I didn't have time for that. I needed to literally figure out how I was going to pay the light bill. So you figure it out one way or the other. So yeah, absolutely. I hear you when you're talking about that diamond pressure.
It's such and Dawn and I talked about it, like the boundaries and the flexibility and fluidity. At some point, if things aren't doing well, then yes, I will set the boundary and go, okay, maybe I need to go find a part-time to go so support or whatever. But in the present moment, I know that if I do the work and get the stuff up that I have sitting here and I've had sitting here through all the grief that I've been through, that the opportunities are endless at that point. But even coming back to the overall conversation around confidence, even, right? Because what happens is with the pre-programs of the world, we start to feel the pressure. And then we lose confidence in who we are internally. And the big thing is that, and this is where I am, you can't break me. First and foremost, I said it in a video the other day. I was like, just don't come for me because I won't care. If you're trying to attack me, or if you're trying to belittle me, if you're trying to make me feel less, I'm just not the one, because I'm just going to look at you and be like, I'm actually the best.
Good for
And
you.
and a lot of people I know like don't have that within them. And it's okay. It's okay. But I know I'm supposed to be that representative that reminds people that I grew up the chunky girl. I grew up without my parents being around. I grew up with a little bit of money, but most of the time no money. Like, my dad passed away, God rest his soul, without anything left to his name. And there's all the opportunities I created were because I wanted to make sure that my family's good, I'm good, my community's good, because I know other people are struggling the way I am. And so, I know I'm supposed to be an advocate for this. Like, who effing cares, like, as long as you're doing the most you can, as long as you're showing up as best as you can, as
Mhm.
long as you're not only taking care of yourself, but others, be confident in who you are and what you have to offer, because at the end of the day, like, unless people are doing the work for you and taking care of you and all that, maybe that's when you have to be. And it's not even drop your confidence, but it's a check yourself before you wreck yourself, because you have to give credit where credit's due. But in this space where you're over here doing the most, and like really nobody's there but you, picking you up off the floor every day, making
Yep.
sure your stuff's taken care of, you can't come in here and put me down, honey, because I am trying. I am trying. And whether I'm doing the most or just doing, I'm still getting up and getting progress and things done. And so the big thing is the confidence. Like, don't lose your confidence in yourself, because
Yep.
most people who are coming for you are the ones that are insecure, and they see the light, they see the fire, they see the passion, they see the motivation. They themselves wish they had that.
That's exactly right. Hands
Mhm.
down. I mean,
Mhm.
if nobody gets anything else from this conversation that the two of us just had, if they get that snippet, that, just be you, and those people who are your haters, it's not so much that they're hating on you. It's because they have things that they need to work on. I like to say, if you are not here putting my shoes on me, please don't tell me how to tie them. I'm I'm good. Doesn't matter if I'm doing bunny ears, or if I'm doing, around the tree, or however you teach kids to tie their shoes these days. However, I'm doing it is right for me and right for my family, and is blazing a trail for others to come behind me and do it their way as well. So yeah, if you're not here at my house helping me put my sneakers on, I don't really care how you tie yours.
Absolutely. And that's the thing is, I think what people like you and I do, and I have wrote an article called Taking the Scenic Route. And it's the concept of, not taking the traditional way, right? Taking the long way, but still getting to the same exact place as everybody else. And no matter, whether I've had 1,000 more bumps in the road, I'm still just as successful as those whose parents paid their way through school, or kids who had the opportunity, had functionality and stability to really take the paths that they wanted to take, or had the clout, the name of the family, so that way they could get put into those positions. There's nothing wrong with either way.
Right? There
There's
isn't.
nothing wrong with either way. And kind of going to where you said, there's nothing wrong with nepotism as long as there's a little bit of work for it. You know, it shouldn't be like, you know, I don't have any idea what this is. I'm just going to go in and learn it. And
Yep.
but my dad is a billionaire, so I got the position over someone, you know, but at the same time, names matter, and who you know is how you grow. And it doesn't even mean that that person has to be a millionaire. It just means that that person serves their community, knows people, and by you guys collaborating creates space and opens doors. Even here today, I know I have a good following between all my socials, and it's growing and growing, but now I get to collaborate with you,
Right.
and and I get to be brought into your space, and people get to know me through you and you through me. And so, you know, then we're just equally yoking and opening the space up for other people to get to know us as a whole. And so that it's important to not even who you know, but just connect with people in a wholehearted way, sharing your experiences, you know, creating space for vulnerability, for truth, for those hard lessons and blessings and those hard topics, you know, that people don't like
Oh
to
yeah.
talk about because, you know, people don't want to hear, you know, the other day I talked about, I don't want to hear a rich person complain to me about money.
I'm with you.
Say that first and foremost. This,
Yeah.
but you know, I'm sitting next to this guy in Arizona, and he's like complaining about, oh, I got to pay $300,000 in taxes, and because I make just so much money. And I'm like,
And
problem, you know. And I looked at him, I said, do you want to know some ways you can offset your tax problem? I said, and I should have got paid for this. I said, why don't you look into nonprofits? You donate more money, you get tax write-offs. You know what I mean? And he's like, well, I want to put the money back in my family. I said, did you know that if you help your community, you're helping your family?
good for you. Good for
Person.
you. I love that. And what did he say to that?
And he said, I'm going to look into that. I
Yeah.
should have just said, write me a check right now for 60 grand. We'd be good. You'll be taxed right off there. But, you know, it's just one of those things that, well, my whole goal is to become almost a nonprofit in and of itself, and working with not just nonprofits, but the community in general. So funding comes in and then I just put funding out.
Yeah.
So I just think it's funny because, you know, I know we need billionaires, but then we also need the people working in restaurants, and you know, everybody has so much value. And I said it to Dawn, you know, the crackhead on the street to the billionaire, everybody has a story, everybody has lessons and learning things. And so I just, you know, value all of that. But it's really important, I think, this next year, as I keep doing this podcast stuff, is to really have those conversations that are uncomfortable on all sides, you know, and shedding the light on the fact that we're all really equal. What I tell people all the time is this, you know, I'm running for president of the United States, and in our country, the only people who actually matter to those in office are the ones that are paying their pockets. So if even some millionaires aren't even in their pockets paying. And so
Yeah.
we're all equal under. If they wanted to come in and tell all of us we're going to concentration camps, guarantee you even Jerry with the $1.5 million house will still be there as well. And he'll be wondering
Correct.
why, because
Yeah.
you're just like everyone else. And so just a gentle reminder to stop judging and to believe in yourself. So important.
And we never know what journey somebody's on, right? I mean, it's just we all do these journeys both together and alone. And we have our valleys and our peaks. And when you're meeting somebody and we're automatically judging them, and I'm guilty as charged. I was a big judger for a long time, and some of that I think was because I always felt I had to prove myself. So with proving myself, I found myself judging others, which was really counterproductive because I was doing exactly what I didn't want people to do to me, right?
Yeah,
But we're all at a different spot in our journey. So maybe somebody's just having a bad day.
absolutely.
Maybe they lost 3 people in the last year and they just need time to heal. And maybe they're not presenting themselves to you in the way in which you think they should be presenting themselves, but that's not for you to decide, right?
100%.
It's not for me to decide how you should grieve losing 3 people in your life. Maybe the way you grieve is, I don't know, curling up on the couch with a dog and binging on Netflix. Or maybe it's getting your feet out in the grass and doing some grounding and really working on you. But that's not for me to judge. And when we all put those judgy hats on, it is really an ugly world. So if we all can just realize we all wear different hats, but none of them are, like you said, none of them are more important.
Yeah.
If the janitor at the high school is as important as the principal, because I'm telling you, if that janitor didn't show up for 2 days, ooh, we'd have a problem, right? So yeah, you know, I just like to warn people, be careful of that judgy, but also be careful judging yourself.
Yes. We are
We
our own worst critics.
we get lost in the should-haves, would-haves, could-haves, and we should all over ourselves. And you know, I think we just need to give ourselves grace, and understand. I remember somebody had said to me when my mom was really sick, and I'm an only child, so I had to make a lot of the decisions all on my own. And they kept telling me, oh, Lisa, you just need to be strong. You need to be strong. You need to be strong. And you need to blah, blah, blah. And I just looked at them all and I said, I don't know what your version of strong is, but let me tell you what I think strong looks like. Strong looks like today I had to make some really tough decisions for my mom. And I went home and I had that big snot rolling, sobbing cry curled up in the corner. That's what strong looked like, because I needed to release that so that tomorrow I can get up and have room in my heart and in my head to make more decisions. So when we see people who we think are being weak, right, and being vulnerable, that's the strongest they can, that is showing so much strength and so much bravery. And I think if we all can find it within ourselves to share that vulnerability and not always put on a mask of being okay, I think the world just would be a better place. You know, now that's my presidential campaign. I don't know.
I love that, and I love the reminder because I did talk about losing my dad a little bit, but what happened was I went quiet, and even that holding company I was working with, the guy who runs it, when I was super depressed, and the job itself was not what I thought I had signed up for. And so then losing my dad, I was even more depressed, like being in that space. And he looked at me one day, he's like, "You've been real depressing lately." And I was like, yeah, because, I lost my dad. He's like, well, even a little before. And I said, yeah, because this is not what I thought it was going to be, and now I'm grieving and stressed out about this job. And so from there, what do? You end up going inward, and you stop showing up, and you feel like no one's going to listen to you or hear you. And even when I lost my dad, like I was already doing some other things where people was like, "You're not showing up," and it's like, I can't, but you won't understand it because I'm going through it and you haven't been through this. And I gave them the grace and compassion, was like, okay, fine, that's because you just don't understand. But at the end of the day, one thing I really learned was during that quiet period, I really learned to I already respect myself a lot, but I learned to grow and to respect myself more, because it just became the space of, what do you need? Let's make it all about you right now, since nobody else can seem to hold that space for you. What do you need?
Yep.
If it's canceling half your meetings and pissing people off, well, so be it. If it's not showing up, if it's losing clients, whatever, it's going to have to be that, because at the end of the day, nobody's worried about you. And it
Yep.
was okay. It was okay for that space. And then as I lost my grandpa, and then my stepmom just a few months ago, it was, let me talk. let me express. Let me, now that I know that I need to talk and express and let people know that I'm having a shit day, like
Yep.
it's become that. And so the sharing has become a great deal of caring, not just for myself, but my community. So that way they can understand that we all feel that. But then while I'm feeling that, I'm going to have to let you guys know. So that way you understand why I'm showing up the way I'm showing up, or why I'm canceling, or why I might ramble on and sound crazy today, or why I might shut myself away for a day or two to ground down.
Yep.
And so just creating the opportunity for, because I talk about it openly. I've tried to kill myself a few times, especially as a kid. I lost my brother at a very young age. I lost my brother at 14. The year later, my dad actually almost strangled me to death. And life just really happened. And at a very young age, I was just over it. And like many people, I was molested. Like many people, I was raped. There was just like a plethora of things that at a young age, you just kind of get fed up and tired with. And I talk about it because even in my women's group that I host every month around the full moon, we talked about it in the last circle. And you just, again, you realize everybody's been in that space. And with losing my stepmom, my dad, my grandpa, I was in that space again, where I was just like, I just want to drive off a cliff. Let's just go have a good time. And for me, I've been in death's arms before, and people find it crazy when I say it, but when you go to die, there's a lot of peace. I know that because I've experienced it. And when you experience that peace and you have to come back to this craziness of a world, you go, whoa, I kind of miss the piece that comes with that. So for me, like I'm trying to remind people like it's worth living no matter how unhappy, but you can only live when one, you're nurturing yourself and then letting people know where you're at, and then filling the space with people, like you said in your testimony, filling the space with people who care and who will
Right.
show up and be there and let you be a hot ball of mess. My good friend Andrew has let me snot up his pant leg so many times for me just laying my head on his leg and crying and bawling my eyes out. And
Yep.
we end up laughing because there's nothing but snot and water down my face, and it breaks that moment. But I also have cried for 30 minutes and felt held and understood and seen, and didn't drive off the cliff like I wanted to.
Yep.
And so, leaning into community for love and support is the absolute most, but then respecting people who can't hold the space and finding people who can hold the space. And it doesn't mean you have to stop being friends with people who can't hold the space, but maybe, when you come back to them, you guys are in two different spaces, and now they can hold more space. And now
Right.
you don't, now you can lean into them. And I kind of experienced this last year. And so really just I keep saying it. And it's funny because the conversations roll from one podcast into another where the sharing is caring and it's kind of the same, but leaning into this balancing act of this life. You're constantly balancing between the highest you're trying to be and maybe the stress of the life that you're in, and then you're trying to balance your relationships, all of the different kinds, and in balancing that, you're trying to meet people where they're at, and all you can do is just let everything be and try not to be too attached to the outcomes and the expectations and the pre-programmed societal
Yep.
standards, and just know that it's okay and it will all work out in the long run.
Yeah, it's exactly what you said about the holding space. You have to get to a point that first and foremost, I think you need to hold your own space and figure out what that looks like. And like you said, understand that there are different relationships that you are tied to, that space is going to look differently. And you have to determine a couple of different things. One, is that space worth holding with them or for them? Understanding I like to count it as like a bank account. You have to make deposits and withdrawals in a relationship. And if one person's always making withdrawals and the other person's always making the deposits, you need to be careful with those, no matter which side of that you're on. And you also need to just get to a point where you can go, okay, so we can be friends, we can be acquaintances, we can still be family, right? Because that's where a lot of us get in the weeds, is we think we need to do things for our family and let them walk all over us, and you don't. We need to get to a point in our life where you go, okay, this is the relationship I'm going to have with you. We're not going to talk about, maybe it's politics, right? Or there's some people in my family, I'm not going to share my deep, dark worries or dreams or those types of things, but I'm going to still hold space for them for where they're at. It's just, I'm not going to share my deepest with them, and that's okay. And we also need to understand that I think there's often we need to protect I like to put up my bubble of my positive energy vibe. And I know that there's people who are going to come into my life that don't have good vibes, but I can't let that vibe totally change who I am. So I literally put on my funnel and I let their vibes, I'm very visual, so I just let their vibes come in through the top and go out down through the bottom of my funnel and go, okay, I understand that's where they're at right now in their life. And we've all been there, done that, but I cannot take that on. I can be here to listen to you, but I can't, I can't take all of that. So yeah, I mean, so I do want to tell you, thank you for being here. You are an amazing woman. What you have gone through is sharing, and you are sharing with so many and bringing a light to all of us. So if I was sitting there with you right now, I would give you a big, big hug, and because I'm a hugger, whether people like it or not. So when I meet you in person next week, I'll be giving you a hug, just fair warning. But thank you for having your good friend that you can snot on his pant leg and share, because that is so important. When you're talking about that, I was on a women's retreat with a bunch of ladies that I kind of knew about a year ago, and I shared some very, very deep things with those women that I've never shared with anybody. And it ended up bringing me so much closer to one of the women in particular. Her name is Meredith, because she shared with me that it's something that happened to her when she was young as well. And it was something that at that point I hadn't even shared with my husband. And she gave me the space to snot cry. And I've got a picture of the two of us, and by no means is it the most like appealing picture to most people, but we've got, mascara running, and we've got big red eyes, and our makeup's all cried off, but it's this best picture to me because it shows the two of us just raw. And it just brought us together. And I think that's what people need to understand, is by you sharing your story, by me sharing my story, doesn't mean we are, hey, look at me, I came from this and this is where I am. But what it does do is hopefully it lets other people know that they're not alone. We've all been through those same similar things. And by sharing them and by talking about them, it allows other people to share their vulnerability as well, to move forward and, to find your people, no matter what that looks like. So yeah.
Well, I appreciate you being on, and I'm just I'm working with a guy running for mayor of Gastonia right now, and one of the first things he said to me is, Lauren, I've got something in my past, and I love this. Well, me too, and I love that what God's doing for me is bringing people who literally who've been through some of the same exact things. I mean, to a T, some of the same exact things, and reminding me that no matter what your background, like, God will use you more than he will use even the billionaire, because the testimony of your life is really God's gift. And I'm just so grateful to connect with so many of you lately who who just remind me that I'm not alone, and that we all have medicine to share. And so, Lisa, I don't know if you have any events going on. I don't know if you, if you have anything special that you want to put out there for anybody, if you have programs or coaching or anything that you'd like to promote at the moment, but I always give the space for you guys to,
Well,
just
that's so
anything.
sweet of you. Thank you. I wasn't prepared to answer that. I do have my passion business. And really what that is in the education side of hemp-based wellness. There's a lot of hype out there at the moment. A lot of people think it's a end all to be all to cure all. It can be a answer to prayer for a lot of people, but it is truly a buyer beware industry out there right now. So it is my passion to educate people. I do educational sessions at least twice a month. And I'm having one here in my home this week, Wednesday. I've got a couple of more in the works. I don't have the details on those yet. I'm happy to share those with you. But if there is anybody out there, that is looking for a resource of someone who's going to give you a no nonsense, straight shooter, the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to things around mental health, helping you feel your best, whether you're struggling with pain, inflammation, sleep, girlfriend, that'd be me. Anxiety, that would be me. I'm just going to keep raising my hands here, but it is truly my passion to help people in that aspect. And I'm here for that. And I'm not here to make financial dollars off of it. If it happens along with it, great. But my passion is to truly help people understand what they're looking for and what to purchase and what not to purchase. And I'm also just here to kind of bring some light into the world. And I can't wait to meet you next week at the circle. I'm so excited, and to meet some other like-ish minded, because I don't like to hang out with just like-minded, right? But kind of people with that same journey. I can't wait. So thank you so very much for having me on today. It's been just a blessing. It's been it's just really filled my cup today. So thank you.
Thank you for being here. And I'm just putting it out there for everyone listening. If you have a story, or you have, a business topic or a life spiritual topic that you're interested in talking about, my podcast is open to you. So please feel free to reach out to me. And I am dual purposing my podcast. I want to maximize my love and support in my communities, and everyone who's on the podcast and has already been told about this, and some of them are supporting, but even the listeners, I work on a few nonprofit boards, and one of them is Canine Companions. They are a dog training company that supports veterans and kids with autism. They've got an opportunity to work on 200 acres in Arizona, but they need funding to house more dogs, train them, feed them, and all the things for these veterans who need love and support. And so the link will be in the description below, along with Lisa's social one of her social media, so you can connect with her as well. And if you feel like donating, please donate. A little bit goes a long way, and if we all support each other, then we all rise together. And so, Lisa, again, thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you next week. And for
Yes.
all the listeners, I love and appreciate your time that you put in. And I just look forward to having more of you on the show. So keep your ears out. There's a lot more to come. Have a blessed day.
Good day. Thank you.